All right, today we are in the shop. We have a special guest. We have John Doonan, who's the president of IMSA. John, you and I have known each other a long, long time. 30 years ago, I wouldn't have thought I'd be sitting here with you.
Same here, Tim.
President of IMSA, and so you started your career writing for us. You as part-time, and and then you worked your way up to the head of motorsports for Mazda.
Yeah.
Which was an amazing accomplishment.
Incredible.
And you know, pretty impressive career. I mean, you know, an instant overnight success, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. People talk about it as an overnight success, but you know, if it wasn't for, and no pun intended, grassroots motorsports, not just the magazine, but the whole concept around grassroots racing, I wouldn't be here. You know that.
Me either.
Right. And, you know, when I called to introduce myself to JG Pasterjack, you know, you all didn't know the end from the other in terms of who this guy was. And I'm a passionate kid that grew up at the racetrack, just like most of you and your staff. And, you know, to have had the opportunities, number one, to write, which was a passion. Number two, then to meet the right people at Mazda, be around for the development of Spec Miata and MX-5 Cup and all the things that happened there. And then, of course, you know, we had platforms that fit really nicely into classes in Grand Am and classes in ALMS and IMSA. And then, you know,
now it's all the same.
Yeah, and you know, to have Jim France and Ed Bennett call and ask if I wanted to join the organization. You know, we all are, you know, dreaming about our favorite car and, you know, dreaming about career opportunities. I've had two boyhood dreams come true, and I am so grateful and thankful for the opportunity, and to never forget the grassroots part, because
well, we appreciate that.
Well, and I learned so much, and I tell those folks all the time. I learned about flagging. I learned about managing a safe race event. I learned about tire walls and all the things that go into doing it now. But I learned them at age 9, 10 years old when I was riding around on the back of a wrecker or things like that at a grassroots
That's right.
event.
Your parents were very much into all
Yeah,
this.
mom was the registrar. Dad was a chief steward, a chief instructor, and that, you know, you learn so much about how to do it, how to do the sport, and that's why I'm so thankful. And I keep telling all those folks, I'll never forget my past.
I like to say one thing I don't think people know about you. Your personal passion is not really IMSA racers or Mazda racers. It's old Formula Fords, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm so so excited about again, the grassroots stuff really is where, you know, still pumps through my veins. And you know, I was able to recently acquire my grandfather's original 1947 Curtis Craft Midget.
That's pretty cool.
And I've got that here just down the road in Ormond. You know, Dad's original Volkswagen Beetle, which was one of the cool
we wrote about
features that you guys allowed me to write about. And then as a kid, and you know, from all the eras, I grew up at the track in that mid 70s to early 80s. And that's when Formula Ford racing was at its peak. Yeah. Now it's, you know, in grassroots racing, it's the Spec Miatas and it's the you know, Spec Racers and Spec Racer Fords. But it was Formula Fords, and all the top talent was there. And the other thing, which I know you love and appreciate, is the variety. There were all these different chassis from the big names like Lola and Crosley and Taiga and Van Diemen, but then there were the Tim and John Formula Ford that you and I machined in the back of the shop and dropped the same Kent engine in. So I do have several Formula Fords in the collection, which is exciting. And now it's just a matter of time and money.
You never have both together.
Neither.
Sometimes you get one or the other.
That's right. That's right.
So in October of 19, Smarty Pants here takes this big new job. And then all of a sudden, a few months later, bam, racing's over, closed, pandemic hits. You had to be freaking out.
I was, and I on a humorous side, I joked with Jim and Ed, as like, you guys didn't mention anything about this in the interview process. But once again, in our sport, you do it in this shop with your team all the time. you adapt and
You
overcome.
figure it out, right?
And we did. And the cool thing was, we set up sort of a war room, and we looked at the schedule. Fortunately, we had done the Michelin Encore event for a couple years down at Sebring, and we had that weekend already booked. So, we were, as you know, 5 days from leaving for Sebring when all of this changed. And we were just immediately able to say, Sebring unfortunately can't happen. We're going in November. And then, the 8 different iterations of the schedule happened. And
Only 8?
yeah, that was the first. That was the first one. Then last year, I think it was 5, and hopefully this year, knock wood, it's 0. But learned a ton. Learned a lot about efficiencies for the teams. What can we do to be on the ground for less days? What can we be doing to limit exposure? Obviously, and the biggest thing I learned was Homeland Security and customs, because about 40% of our people come from outside the U.S. So getting all those folks in, which in the end was about between 1,600 and 1,700 people that we had to get into the U.S. And never once did we have someone turned away, and we were able to run full championships, luckily, and I think learned a lot. Our sport, I think, has come out of this with a significant amount of growth, and I know you all and your business projects and events and stuff is something we can be proud of, that people hung in there and want to see it grow.
Yeah, we had a lot more time last year in the shop where we could build stuff.
That's right. That's right.
So coming from Mazda, your part of your job was to bitch at IMSA about, the efficiency index and all that, and so it had to be kind of weird switching hats there. It's like, did you get a little more understanding of what a lot of the rules and what was going on?
Yeah, I think, and this, you show up at a race, SCCA race, or obviously in this case IMSA, and you show up with your trailer and your car and you go racing. Well, I knew, I think, in my mind, that there were a group of people that spent a lot of time organizing that event. And ultimately, I knew that at IMSA, I knew it for years at SCCA or Midwestern Council back in the day, but until I got there and really saw the amount of work that goes into putting on a race event, and at the top level of the sport, I had a deeper appreciation. I would say on the competition side, when it comes to BOP, that's a tough topic. I was in it on the manufacturer side. So one of the things two things really. One, I said to the manufacturers, hey, look, there's 2 things that can be promised in this room. One, I just was in your seat, so I'm going to promise you that I'm going to do my best to make sure there's a level playing field. The expectation and the promise I have needed back is you're going to go out and show your true performance. And I think that might have set a tone. I hope it did.
Yeah.
Because they knew that I had just come from being one of them, and they knew that I tried to play it straight when I was racing. The word I hate in racing is sandbagging, right? And the story, right? You gotta.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
lift and coast and all the things, and setting suspension so the car won't do its best lap. Look, we're still at the grassroots level or at the top level. We're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
So we need to go out and put on a great show for our audience. And all I care about now is a great show. And frankly, all I cared about then was being one of those 5-6 cars in the hunt with a chance.
Yeah.
Because then it comes down to driving talent, it comes down to strategy and great preparation like happens in your shop. There's that little extra that's gained right here in the building.
So it kind of sounds like you're alluding to the fact that racers are a sneaky bunch.
They sure are. As you know, I mean, we both are, and they'll give an inch, take a mile, and they'll find every which way to gain an advantage, and that's what racing's all about. But we do need to do it in a proper manner with an organized process. And the second thing besides realizing what it took is I joined the technical committee. It's not something that my predecessor had done, but I said to Jim and Ed, I said, I just came from being an OEM, I got to believe there's going to be an expectation that it's going to be right. Not that the team wasn't doing it right before,
No,
but I better be in there and understand
Yeah,
what's
they would
going on.
expect, I think the competitors would expect you to be involved in it.
Yeah, or at least know exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
been great, and I love working on the technical committee.
All right, so where do you see IMSA today, and where do you see it in, let's say, 5 or 10 years? I mean, it seems like it's pretty rock solid. Is that good enough?
It's a really solid platform to build on. Something that I don't know that everyone realizes, all the readers and those that take in your content, is IMSA has 7 series that we sanction. I used to say, offense wins the fame, defense wins the game. The offense is the WeatherTech Championship, which gets the big spotlight, gets the NBC and USA and Peacock coverage. Then there's the Michelin Pilot Challenge. All the OEMs are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the OEMs have given us their prized possession with things like the Porsche Carrera Cup, like the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, like the Mazda MX-5 Cup, like Ferrari Challenge. So you add this up now, that's 6 plus the IMSA Prototype Challenge. We have 7 series or 7 platforms that we sanction. So that's solid. That's 18 automakers that have come on board. That's an entitlement partner of your major championship in WeatherTech that's in a long-term agreement, and a tire partner in Michelin that's long-term. So you'd say the foundation is solid. Now, you need to read the tea leaves. Where's the industry headed? There's a lot of talk.
Oh, we don't want to do that.
Electrification, hybrid, future fuels. The cool thing is we have a firm foundation. Now, how do we integrate those things? And we're on the eve of a very historic moment for our sport by integrating hybrid in the top category. And the manufacturers have spoken. The number of commitments now globally is at 6, 5 that will run primarily in IMSA, and there's more coming.
Yeah.
And so the future is really bright. We have to be positioned to make sure that we remain relevant to what the automakers need to market their brand, market their engines, market their propulsion plans,
Yeah.
and that's what we all need. The thing that runs through our veins is, sound and noise, and
That's a problem.
Yeah, so back to the idea of being in the entertainment business, whatever we do, we still got to remember that there's a group of loyal fans that want to hear sounds, they want to smell, they want to be able to
Yep.
understand, and
Yeah.
we're going to continue to try to bridge the gap between those two things.
So do you see it as a separate, you said you had 7, do you see it as an 8th series to do something
I think
with your electric or hybrid?
We've been doing some studying and how we could integrate it. I think that's a very, maybe we need to bring you on board. That's a great way to look at it is, maybe we could do it in one of those single make championship formats.
At least start there?
Yeah, and you're looking at little snippets, little short sprint races to at least demonstrate the technology and again, make sure that we continue to remain relevant. And so with a top category platform like LMDH, which has gotten a lot of uptake from manufacturers, we set that up as a 5-year homologation period, and such that the manufacturers can make an investment, know that it's solid, without a lot of dramatic change to the regulations that's going to cost them more money. So the goal is to truly get to a place where manufacturers can come compete, maybe as a factory works supported effort at the top, but then also remain with a proper business model in the customer racing side. So we just made a transition to GT3 spec. Now all those brands, the Porsches of the world, the Lamborghinis of the world, the Audis, the Acuras,
Yeah.
the Lexus that have GT3 cars can sell a customer car and have a business model that allows them to be there with a consumer identifiable platform.
That's probably the biggest change in racing in the last 20 years is, guys aren't building cars in their garages anymore for IMSA events. They're factory-built cars, which I guess certainly makes them safer cars. It makes competition a little more even. Do you think that's as big a deal as I do, and do
Yeah.
you think it's helped?
I do, Tim. I think that has made things more consistent. But on the other side of this wall, you know, your team's building a Mustang to go vintage racing, and
No, but not IMSA racing.
no, but so you know, I miss that element only because that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
But the efficiencies of the model of GT4 and TCR cars in Michelin Pilot, and the efficiency of GT3 or LMP3 or LMP2 cars that are, I don't want to call them spec because that's not the right word, but they're in a regulated set of rules that allow people to go racing in an affordable manner.
Yeah, I've talked to some of the different teams. James Clay's a good buddy of mine, and he's like, oh no, heck yeah, we love the factory cars. It's way cheaper, quicker, and easier to get on track with one of these cars than if we have to create something. So I think almost universally the teams like these cars.
Yeah, and in my previous experience, you know, at Mazda, we had the Spec Miata kit, right? We had the MX-5 kit where it was shipped out, and, you know, guys like you and I worked on the car and built a car in a garage. And then the executives even said to me, why don't we sell a complete car? And initially I was scared to death, right? Because the competitors wanted it, they were asking for it. But then, boy, those things better roll out of the shop ready to go. And it's just a transition for our sport. But as you talked about having some historic race cars, there's nothing like, putting on a pair of work gloves and getting some tools and working on it yourself.
So the timing of this is good because you're pretty much the granddaddy of all races in America is coming up in just a few weeks here in a place called Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah,
So.
it just made the hair stand up on my arms. Because in 1979, I was sitting in my parents' living room in Chicago, and it was just prior to, you remember, the 79 Daytona 500, the fight, and the first big, so it was snowstorm in Chicago, and CBS at that time did not have full coverage of the Rolex 24. They had these little highlights that came on.
Yep, I remember.
And here I am, 9 years old, sitting in the living room, and the Interscope Porsche wins. The Mazda RX-7 debuts at that
GTU
race,
cars.
wins GTU.
Yeah, huge.
And to be, 10 miles away from the track right now, to be in the role that I'm in, to be on the eve of the 60th running of the Rolex 24, and I have the opportunity I have, it just blows my mind.
So you weren't thinking there at 9 years old, I'll probably be running that race someday.
No,
Not in it, just the whole thing.
Exactly, and to have run it as many times as I had the opportunity to be part of a team to run it, and then to be responsible for the whole thing is it's just, boyhood dream stuff. And, we're on the verge of a historic one. We're going to have 60 plus entries.
That's max, right?
Yeah, as you know, puts restraints on pit lane, garage areas, parking, RV spots. I mean, those are all the topics that are floating around in the office right now.
Our office too.
Yeah, because of the GRM experience that you guys have done so many years, which I just love the fact that was incorporated and gives your readers and those who are maybe on the grassroots side a chance to come and be integrated, because I want them there, and I want them maybe to be able to pursue their own dream and be part of it someday. But it's tough with that car count. Michelin Pilot Challenge, you're looking at 45 to 50 cars there too.
Wow.
So it's just exciting to see the growth. It's happened organically. It's happened because the manufacturers have gotten behind customer car programs. It's hopefully because we've provided great value to all the partners. And then the fans, I think everybody's got a lot of pent-up energy. You're not going to be able to find a parking spot because it's sold out, which is a wonderful problem to have. Frank Kelleher, my partner in crime, who runs the Speedway now, he and his team have got a great plan, and we want any and all to come see what's going to be a tremendous race.
So give us 5 tips if we're going to come to the 24 Hours of Daytona. 5 things you got to do or see, or insider tips.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the openness of our grid walk, I think, is something really special. You see some of those images post the event or on television when you're watching. You know, the fact that we allow fans to come onto the front straightaway while drivers are being introduced, while cars are being put in their grid positions, or even in the garage area to be that close.
Yeah, it's pretty special
Really,
experience.
really
Yeah.
special. You know, I think I got that just by being a pesky kid in the paddock when I was a kid at grassroots races, but all of our fans get that. I think the transitions from daylight into darkness and then darkness into
If
daylight.
you've not seen the flames coming out of these cars at night,
Yeah,
and
again,
the brake rotors
made
glowing,
my hair,
yeah, it makes my hair.
yeah.
Like, if you're into car racing, that's a bucket list thing you need to see. At least
Yeah,
once.
that, and then I think the beauty of IMSA or any of the races that we do at road racing circuits is you got to go to some different corners and take in, you know, the fact that, you know, there's a bus stop going down the back straightaway that.
Know it well.
Yeah, there's a transition from the tri-oval into one, and then there's a transition from 6 back onto the banking. I think to have that appreciation of speed and braking is something that everyone needs to take in. Of course, there's the Ferris wheel and all those
I was going to
experiences
suggest the Ferris wheel is a pretty cool way at night to get a view of it.
on the
whole
midway.
wheel. That's a pretty cool experience.
Unbelievable. Obviously, we've got fireworks that transition us from you know, midnight into the next day, which is awesome.
Fireworks got to make the drivers nuts.
You know, I remember on the radio, on the Mazda side for years, having to just give the guys a heads up. You know, hey, when fireworks display is going to start, just, you know, keep your head up, keep your eyes open, hit your marks, don't let it, you know, because you got not only the flashes of light, but the sounds of the booms to be sensitive to. And, you know, then just the fans, you know, they need to go on the midway and see the road car product that the manufacturers have brought to demonstrate the relationship to here's what we do on the racetrack and here's how it impacts the road car product. And that's, you know,
it's a lot of fun.
I used to do that when I was a little kid, go to the auto show, and I wasn't really concerned about the road car product. I wanted to see which race cars were in the display.
Yeah.
But now in your career, you realize the tie-in between the two and the things that are learned on the racetrack by Michelin on the tire side or by any of the automakers about, you know, future technologies is that's why we do it.
So I've lived here my whole life. You mentioned the 79 race. I was here in college back then. That's the first one I went to.
Oh, good.
And it was a little bit of a coincidence, but I've never driven. Honestly, I've been scared to actually drive or try to drive
In the race?
20. In the old days, if you had 25 grand, you
Oh,
could
heck
actually,
yeah.
you could hook a ride and be in the 24 hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
I got maybe not similar, but a little bit of a chance. I ran some in the Classic 24.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I kind of felt the madness that must be the 24 hours of Daytona, the biggest track in America, the speed, the differentials. Have you've been on a team, but as far as
never
it's
driven
quite
in this event. I had the opportunity to do the 25 hours of Thunderhill a few times, but this one in particular with the banking, with the best drivers in the world, with the best manufacturers in the world.
Bring your big
best
boy
team.
pants.
Oh, and, you know, the traffic, you know, through the infield, the traffic on the banking. Our race control team does an amazing job of instructing people on how to pass and how to be passed. But it's not for the faint of heart, and 61 cars is not.
Thankfully, the weather is always perfect with no issues at the 24 hours of Daytona.
Knock wood, Tim. I pray that we're going to be there this year. But you know, when it gets wet, it gets really tough.
Oh, it can get foggy. It can get
foggy,
cold. It can get hot.
Exactly.
It's
exactly right. But
so.
you know, this event, you know, 60 years, and the vision of Bill France was exactly this: bring the best drivers in the world, the best sports cars, and put them to the ultimate test. And to be in the calendar position we're in, you mentioned, we really are the, you know, ignition button for the whole motorsports season around the world.
Yeah.
That's really cool because the whole spotlight of racing, everyone's eyes are on Daytona Beach, Florida, Daytona International Speedway, IMSA, and all the participants for this event. And, you know, I think when you have the standard guys that have made their career in sports cars. You bring in a driver like Jimmy Johnson from NASCAR to run. You bring in drivers from other championships, IndyCar, and global championships. You still to this day have the same vision and core reason to do it, and that's
Must have been a good idea. It's
Yeah,
60 years later. It's still going stronger than ever.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, the days of you and I bringing our 240Z or our RX-7 to run in the 24-hour race, unfortunately not possible, just because of the commitment from the OEMs to bring again the best race cars in the world.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
We definitely would recommend a trip to the 24 Hours of Daytona,
Yes.
and or the Rolex 24.
That's right. That's right.
And we mentioned our Grassroots Motorsports experience. It is open to everybody. It's right on Lake Lloyd. We welcome you to come by. And if you can't make it, it's on TV.
Yeah, we'll be on
the whole thing.
NBC network television, flag-to-flag coverage on Peacock, which is unique for us to have that platform. But IMSA fans have spoken, and they want that experience to watch it on their mobile device or their iPad or wherever they are. And then we'll also have segments of the race on the USA Network, which is new for this year, that gives us significantly more household reach, which we're excited about. But yeah, please come out. And I know a couple years ago I did the midnight pit tour.
Yeah, that we do as part of
which
our
you guys
experience.
did, and I love that. We did that when we had the Mazdas, and I loved having the group come into the garage and ask questions. So never hesitate. I can pretty much guarantee you, if someone goes up to any of our IMSA mechanics or engineers, they're going to be willing to tell you about what they do, and so please do come out.
All right, if you like this sort of stuff, please push the like, subscribe buttons, and go to our website, grassrootsmotorsports.com. We're doing this kind of stuff all the time.
Support brands that support Grassroots Motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. Visit crcindustries.com to learn more.